It's kind of weird to think about, but how does your computer think versus how it remembers? Turns out, they're not the same thing at all. It's like every device you have has these two separate brains. So let's dive in and break it down.
And it's a great question, right? Where does my computer keep its thoughts? The thing is, there's no single answer. Your computer's got like two completely different kinds of memory, these two brains we're talking about, and each one has a super specific job to do.
Okay, so here's probably the easiest way to wrap your head around this. Imagine primary storage is your actual desk, the surface you're working on right now. And secondary storage, well, that's the big filing cabinet in the corner of the room where you stash everything for safekeeping.
All right, let's focus on the desk first. That's our primary storage. And it's all about the here and now, what your computer is doing right this second. It's that immediate workspace.
Basically, this is the memory that your computer's CPU, that's the central processing unit, its main brain, needs to access like instantly. We're talking lightning fast. And that speed, it's absolutely crucial because this is what makes your computer feel snappy and responsive when you're using it.
So if we look at this desk, there are really two main players on it, RAM and ROM. They're a team for sure, but they have totally different jobs.
So RAM, think of that as all the paperwork you've got spread out on your desk. It's holding onto your open browser tabs, the game you're in the middle of, that document you're typing up. But, and this is a big but, it's volatile. What does that mean? It means when you shut down the power, poof, it's all gone, just like sweeping everything off your desk into the trash.
ROM, though, is completely different. It's like the instruction manual that's been taped to your desk. It's not going anywhere. It holds the super basic, absolutely essential instructions for how to even start up the computer, the boot sequence, and it's non-volatile, which just means it remembers everything even when the power is off. That's how your computer always knows how to wake up properly.
So, the simple takeaway here is this. RAM is for all the fast, temporary stuff you're doing right now. ROM is just for those permanent startup instructions. One is all about doing the work, and the other is just about getting the whole thing started in the first place. All right, so we've covered the desk. Now let's walk over to the filing cabinet. This is secondary storage, and its whole job is long-term memory, basically remembering things forever, or, at least until you hit delete. Now, unlike RAM, this stuff is non-volatile. It holds onto your data even when you unplug the machine. This is where your operating system lives, all your photos, your music, your installed games, the whole shebang. It has way more space than RAM, but it's also a whole lot slower to get stuff out of it.
So what's actually in this filing cabinet? What does it look like in the real world? Well, it comes in a few different shapes and sizes. Let's take a quick peek inside.
First up, you've got the old school workhorse, the hard disk drive, the HDD. For decades, this was the standard for pretty much every computer out there, especially desktops.
And how these things work is actually pretty wild. An HDD literally has spinning magnetic disks, platters, and this little arm that moves back and forth to read and write your data. It's almost like a tiny, super-fast record player. All those moving parts are why they can be so cheap for huge amounts of storage, but it's also what makes them slower and way easier to break if you drop them. All right, next up we have the modern champion of speed, the solid-state drive, or SSD. Nowadays, these are pretty much standard in any new laptop or gaming PC you buy.
So what's the big difference? No moving parts at all. An SSD just uses memory chips, kind of like a giant USB stick, and that makes it incredibly fast, totally silent, and a lot more durable. The only real downside has always been the price, but honestly, those prices have been dropping like a rock.
So, when you look at them side by side, that's really the choice you're making. You go with an HDD, you're getting massive storage for cheap. You go with an SSD, you're paying a bit more for just incredible speed and reliability. And let me tell you, for most people these days, the speed of an SSD is an absolute game changer. It makes an old computer feel brand new. And of course, our filing cabinet isn't just HDDs and SSDs. Think about it. You've got your USB flash drives for moving files around, SD cards for your phone or camera, even those old-school CDs and DVDs, though you don't see them much anymore. And then there's the big one, cloud storage. That's basically just a giant filing cabinet that you access over the internet.
Okay, so this brings us to a really important question. Why do we even need both? Why can't we just have one giant, super fast type of memory that does everything? Why have a desk and a filing cabinet?
And it's a question a lot of people ask, especially now that SSDs are so fast. If my main storage drive is already quick, why do I need this other, separate thing called RAM?
Well, the answer really goes all the way back to our desk and filing cabinet analogy. Your processor, the CPU, needs its working papers right there on the desk, within arm's reach. RAM is physically right next to the CPU, hardwired for instant access. The filing cabinet, your SSD, can be a little further away because you're not constantly working with everything in it at once. You just grab a file when you need it.
So let's just lay it all out one last time. Primary storage, that's your fast but smaller temporary desk space. Secondary storage, that's your slower but much bigger permanent filing cabinet. They're just two different tools for two completely different jobs.
Honestly, if you only remember one thing from all of this, make it this. Primary storage is for thinking. Secondary storage is for remembering. That's it. One is for the active work, the other is for saving it when you're done.
And that leaves us with a pretty interesting question to chew on. With cloud storage getting faster and faster, will there be a future where we don't even need a big filing cabinet inside our computers? Could our devices just become one giant, super fast desk that pulls whatever file it needs from the internet instantly? Kind of makes you wonder, right? Thanks for joining me.